Hi guys, welcome to NonnyPlus. And I hope you guys have watched my part one series for C Sharp for beginners. And if you know you have not watched my part one series, I want to start watching the part two series, please you have to go back to my videos on the part one series and watch from the beginning to the end before this video. Because you have to understand the part one series before you could understand the part two series. So welcome to NonnyPlus. Welcome to a class where I'll be teaching you guys on how to understand C Sharp and also to code and make you to understand how coding works. So today I'll be teaching you a very important topic, which is the C Sharp identifier. So C Sharp identifier is the next natural topic after constant. You know, my previous class I talked about C Sharp constant. So today I'll be talking about C Sharp identifier. So it teaches beginners how to properly name variables. That is what identifiers do. They enable or allow beginners to name their variables, name their constants, name their method, and also name their classes. That's what they call C sharp identifier. So a key foundation of writing clean and readable code is what we call identifier. Without that identifier, someone that is reading your code will be able to understand what the code is doing or what is the name of this variable or what is the name of this method or class or constant. But with a good readable identifier, your code will be readable, your code will be clean, and your code will be easy to understand. So yes, so today I'll be teaching you guys C sharp identifiers. So welcome to Nonny Plus. My name is Stanley Kimefuna, and today we're learning about something very super simple but very very important in C sharp. What are identifier? It's just a name you give to things in your program. For example, when you create a variable, constant, class, or method, you need to give it a name. That name is called an identifier. When you create a class, when you create a variable, when you create a constant, you have to give it a name. A name of that variable is what we call identifier. So it's very important for you to identify your variable so that people that is reading your code are able to understand. So when you were born, I know your parents gave you a name, so people can identify you, which is very important. So with that name, someone can identify you. This is Stanley, this is David, this is Kingsley. So these are called identifiers. So it's only you that have that name. So in the same way, when we create something in C sharp, we give it a name so that the computer knows what we are talking about. So without that identifier, the computer won't be able to understand what it does, or someone that is reading your code will be able to understand what what a variable or what is the name of that variable or constant. So first of all, let's try to give like an example. So let's go into the into our Studio. So let's type int h is equals to 25. So this is a variable of int. So this h is what? The identifier. That is the name of this variable. And this 25 is a value that is attached to this h, that is inside this h. So let me take it again. So int is a data type. The h is the identifier, the name we give to our variable, which is the h. So 25 is the value. So this h now is now the identifier. So if someone should come and read your code now, you now say int h. What does it mean? It means that this 25 is an age number. So h is like an identifier that is used to identify this variable. So the name of this variable is h and the data type is an int. Just like a container that you name the container h. And inside that h, the inside the container we only have values 25, years 25. It can come in like a container. Like if you go into your kitchen, there are different container. We have container for salt, container for sugar, container for Milo. So those name that's attached to those container are what we call identifier. So if any visitor should come to your kitchen and just see the container, you know that this particular container contain only salt because it has written as salt. This particular container contains only sugar because it has written sugar as the identifier for that container. So that what identifier does, make you to understand the code, make you understand what that variable is doing. Now this variable is assigned age number 25 and the name of that variable is age. Very simple to understand. I just want to just break it down how identifier works. So another example I'm going to give you is a identifier for constant. Let's say constant value we have double. Double is an name of this data type, double. And we have P1, we have 3.14159. So this is a constant value, like I explained what a constant means, what constant means, that this is a double data type for a double. So this PI is a container, and the name of that container is what? PI. That is the identifier for that container. So here PI is the identifier for this constant value. So write constant in capital letter, please don't forget, so that they stand out, and remember not to change them. Constants can never be changed. Once it's written, it can never be changed. And it's always written in capital letter so that people will to understand that this is a constant. So this is a constant value. This double is a data type. Then this PI is the identifier of this double data type. So PI is the identifier, which is very important. So we have different rules for writing identifiers. Let's pay attention. We have different rules for writing identifiers. So first of all, we have must start with a letter or underscore. Very, very important. An identifier must start with a letter, either A, B, C, D to Z, or an underscore. Example, we have here name. You can start with the name, is acceptable, or you can start with an underscore age. So these are acceptable identifier for writing what? For indicating an identifier of a variable. So you can start with a name. Let me comment this one. So you can start with the name, which is good. And also you can start it with what? You can start with the name, and also you can start it with what? An underscore age. So these are two different identifier. So number two for this is number one. Let me write number one here. Then number two, the rules for writing identifier. Wrong. You cannot identify, or you cannot start an identifier with a number. You cannot start an identifier with a number. So this is wrong. Let me show you one example that is wrong. So we have one here, one, and we have what? Name. So these two are wrong. One name, two age. What does it mean? Doesn't even make any sense. But if you are writing an identifier or indicating an identifier, you have to start with a letter or underscore, and you cannot start it with a number. When you start with a number, it will not go through. It will not. The computer might not throw an error, but this will not work. But the rules for identifier that you must start with a letter or underscore, which is very important. Then the third one, we have let's go, cannot contain spaces. So you cannot be identify a container and be putting spaces like this. Let's say you want to identify a particular container, and you're doing username slash space. No, this is wrong. Or you are doing what? Another way that is wrong, or you are doing username underscore name. No, you cannot identify a variable with this value, user underscore name, or username space name, which they are all wrong when you are identifying a container, or when you are using identifier for a container. So no special character. Let me give you the last rules we have for identifier. So no special characters, no special characters like let's see, no special characters like at, no, or special character like hash, no, or special characters like percentage, wrong, or special characters like dollar sign. These are all wrong. So if you are writing an identifier, you cannot use these signs. These signs are not allowed. These characters are not allowed when you are what? Indicating an identifier in your code. Then let's go to the last one, but not the least. So number five is the last one. So the last one we have here is you cannot use C# reserved keywords like int, string, class, if, of 4. Let me write it. If of 4. So these are reserved words. These are C sharp reserved keywords. So we use this for, sorry, this is wrong. If for why. So you cannot use all these things now to be identify your container or be identify your variable, like a string, an integer, a class, a double, if, for, why. They are all wrong. You cannot use them to be identify your container. So these are the rules we have when you are identifying your variable, which is very important. These are the rules. Please, you cannot, the right rule that when you are identifying a variable is more, you must start with a letter or underscore. Anything you are doing, you must start with a letter, name, or start with an underscore, age, which is very, very important. This is the common one they use with a letter, and also you can also use what int underscore age equals to 30. Yes, so these two are acceptable. You can start with a letter and you can start with an underscore. So real life, think of identifier like labels you put on containers in your kitchen. I explained that. If you label one sugar and another salt, you always know which is which. But if you use confusing label, you might mix them up. So very, very, very important for you to identify your container or identify your variable very, very well, which is very important. So let us just do a quick recap. Identifier is just a name that you give to something in your code. Use clear, use simple names that describe what the variable or constant does. Follow the rules. The rules are very important. These are the 5 rules I gave you here. Very, very important. Follow these rules and your code will look clean and also breezy, very, very easy to read and understand. I hope you guys enjoyed this class. Don't forget to subscribe to NonnyPlus for more C Sharp lesson. We have begun our part 2 series for C Sharp for beginners. Please ensure you watch the part 1 series from the beginning to the end. And tell me in these comments, what are the identifier or what are the things you are able to identify in your kitchen, or what are the name of your container you have in your kitchen? Did you identify your container in your kitchen, like container for salt? Did you identify, did you put a label there, salt? Did you put a label there, sugar, for each of the containers? So these are all identifiers. But just on the comment, just comment the identifier you have in your kitchen. Thank you so much, and see you in the next one.